Hi. So in the spring of 2006, I was driving around and listening to the radio, and I heard an announcement that Roger Waters would be playing the Dark Side of the Moon album in its entirety in concert in London's Hyde Park during the Hyde Park Calling Festival. And when I got home that evening, I was on the internet looking at the festival lineup, and Catherine came in and I told her Roger Waters was doing Dark Side of the Moon in London. And she said, we should go. And so that summer was our 25th anniversary, and there was a big birthday for one of us. And so we justified that this would be our present to ourselves. And looking at the lineup, Roger played the first night, closed the first night, and The Who closed the second night. So looked great. So planning for this as I do, I wouldn't just go over there for a concert. While we're there, I mean, Scotland is right next door, right? So we had both read Diana Gabaldon's Outlander books recently, and when I suggested we go up to Scotland for a couple weeks, there was no argument from Catherine. She was very happy with that. But when I told her that I wanted to stay in a hostel in the Cairngorms and do some hiking and whatnot, she was a little less enthusiastic about the hostel part. We hadn't stayed in a hostel since in about 25 years, 26 years, and she thought we had moved past that stage of our lives. So I discovered that the people that ran the hostel also had a B&B amenities to offer, and so I booked that. And then, since she had agreed to that, as we went further north, I decided that I would find something with a bit of luxury, so that we could to reward her and myself. And so I was perusing the advertisements and listings for B&Bs near Ullapool. Ultimately, I wanted to go over to the Isle of Lewis to see some standing stones that are incredible. So Ullapool looked reasonable. You know, we were flying to London, taking a train up to Edinburgh, renting a car, and driving up to the Highlands. I came across a listing that said something like, a retired travel writer caters to her guests' every needs on Ardmere Bay, views of the summer isles, blah, blah, blah. So, sounded good. I got on the phone and I called, and after a few rings, a voice on the other end answered and asked if she could help me. And I said, do you have any availability on July, whatever it was, blah, blah. She said, oh no, sorry, I do have a booking then. Your first time. I said, well, we're coming to London to see a concert. She said, oh, who are you seeing? I said, Roger Waters doing Dark Side of the Moon. Oh, and I said, and then we'll see The Who the next day. Oh, and you've never been to Scotland? I said, no, we both dreamed of coming to Scotland, and it's our 25th anniversary, and so we're looking forward to it. She said, well, these people haven't confirmed their reservation yet. We'll just cross them out, shan't we? I said, okay. So we had our reservation. So I hung up the phone, and I was rather curious of what this retired writer had written. And so I Googled her and found that Lucy Irvine's first book was entitled Castaway. And it was the story of how she had responded to an advertisement in a magazine stating, "Writer seeking wife for a year on uninhabited island." Uh, Local library had it, so I read it, and it was a pretty good read. It did pretty well. She did all of the talk shows, and it was made into a movie. Uh, I thought this is going to be interesting. Her second book was autobiographical, and it tells about her father, who was a film director in London, who left the family with a mistress, and he ran a summer hotel in Scotland, uh, in the Summer Isles. So I looked at that. It was very highly rated, and Lucy had worked there as a teenager. And I said, "Oh, maybe we'll go for dinner there." Um, so we went over and enjoyed the concert very much, and a few days in London with friends, and then began our adventures up into Scotland, and just were loving it. And it came the end of the trip, or near the end of the trip, and we arrived at her cottage in Ullapool, called and you can pretty much be 100% guaranteed that however I pronounce this, it is not the way that it's actually pronounced, but it's Cynech Colleen. Okay, so we got there, and Lucy was delightful, and our breakfasts were mostly locally produced goods, honeys and jams and scones and and smoked fish, and it was just wonderful. And she gave us her views on our itinerary and suggestions, and um, did our laundry for us and folded it. It was quite nice. And when we told her that I had made a reservation at the Summer Isles Hotel for dinner the following night, she was tickled pink. She says, "Oh, you're having dinner with the lords and ladies. That'll be wonderful." She said, "You must go 45 minutes early so that you can have a cocktail in the lounge before dinner." And so Catherine and I got dressed up as best we could on the appointed night, and drove on the lovely one-lane roads to this village on the coast of Scotland, overlooking the Summer Isles, and went in. And we were led to, we'll call it the drawing. Well, it was the bar, I guess, the bar. And each had a sherry. And there were a couple other couples there. And then a couple came in that, I'm not sure how to describe this. It was clear from everything about them that they were uber wealthy. This was obviously who Lucy was referring to as the lords and ladies. And they asked us where we were from, and we said we were Americans. For the first time in my life, I was so wishing that I had a really broad Bronx accent that I could have deployed, but I don't. So we said we were American, and he said something like, "Oh, we don't see Americans up here very often," making it clear that we were we were past where we should have been. And he deigned to inform us that he had run the Boston Marathon once, and we were quite impressed. So after chit chat with the lords and ladies, we were all called to dinner in the dining room, and we approached our table, and there were 2 plates set, but each of these plates was surrounded by an armada, a phalanx of silverware. And I mean, I was raised well and have certainly dined out in fancy places, but I've never seen half of these pieces of silverware as were displayed here. And I had no clue what most of them were for. It's later informed that one of them was the fish moose knife. Don't see how that's necessary, but it was there. So the courses of the meal began, and it was really wonderful food. We both enjoyed it a lot, and then it came time. We were asked whether we would like the dessert cart or the cheese trolley first. I didn't know why they couldn't come at the same time, but we did make use of both, and I couldn't tell you in what order. And at the conclusion of the meal, we were invited again to retire to the drawing room and have an aperitif and await our check. And again, His Highness engaged us in a bit of chit chat. And when he was informed that I had had the sticky toffee pudding for dessert, he made it very clear that I had lived up to every expectation that he had of what how an American would dine. And again, I wish that there was some wonderful comeback to his attitude, but we behaved ourselves quite well. The cocktail, the aperitif was good, but quite frankly, I think that liquid Xanax IV drip would have been more appropriate before the bill arrived. The bill was quite high. It was very good, and everybody should do it once. We enjoyed it immensely. Now, the Summer Isles Hotel is now under other ownership. That was actually the chef at the time, and the owner was Lucy's brother. And Lucy has moved on, and she now is running the Lucy Irvine Foundation out of Bulgaria, where she ministers to dogs, cats, and horses, and other animals that need help and attention. And very worthy cause, and the money is going 100% to their needs. And I will paste a link to that here. But highly recommend Scotland. And if you get far enough up north, lovely town of Ullapool, and perhaps you can have dinner with the lords and the ladies.